Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Jefferson nickel that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving into a piece of American history that many people overlook, but collectors know it's something really special. We're talking about the United States Jefferson nickel from 1943. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 5-cent piece, but what if I told you that this little coin carries silver, wartime history, and in some cases, it can even be worth thousands of dollars? Stick with me, because you don't want to miss the details on this fascinating coin. The 1943 Jefferson nickel was born out of necessity during World War II. The U.S. Mint had to remove nickel from the composition because it was badly needed for weapons and war supplies. To solve this problem, they struck these coins with a special mix of copper, silver, and manganese. That means this nickel actually contains silver, making it very different from the standard issue coins we see before and after this period. Flip one of these nickels over and you'll notice something unusual right away. The mint mark above Monticello is huge compared to normal nickels. Whether it's a P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or S for San Francisco, that big bold letter tells you immediately that this is a wartime silver nickel. And that simple feature makes these coins easy to identify, even for beginners. Collectors love this coin not just for its silver content, but also for the rare errors and varieties that can be found. The double die obverse is one of the most famous, with strong doubling on, "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty." Then there are repunched mint marks, where the big P, D, or S shows signs of being struck more than once, leaving behind overlapping impressions. And of course, striking errors like off-center coins or defective planchets make each piece completely unique. These error coins are often the stars of auctions, bringing in far more than standard issues. Condition is key when it comes to value. Most 1943 nickels circulated heavily during the war years, so finding sharp, uncirculated examples can be tricky. If you're lucky enough to own one with crisp details and those famous full steps on Monticello, you could be holding a real prize. Collectors will pay a strong premium for these top-notch examples, especially if they've been graded by a trusted service, and let's not forget the silver content. Every wartime nickel contains 35% silver, so even a well-worn example carries more value than a typical nickel. But when you add the history, the mint errors, and the condition factor, that's when you start seeing serious money. So what's the real value of a 1943 Jefferson nickel today? A circulated piece might bring only a few dollars, while uncirculated examples can climb into the tens or even hundreds. The double die variety can cross into the thousands, and pristine full-step examples have reached auction prices of more than $10,000. Incredible, right? A small 5-cent coin that once bought a piece of candy in 1943 could now pay for a vacation or even a used car. That's the magic of coin collecting. Top 2, we're going to talk about a coin that most people have seen countless times in their change, but few ever stop to think about its hidden secrets. It's the Jefferson nickel from the year 2000. At first glance, it might just look like an ordinary 5-cent piece, but if you're a collector, you know better, because sometimes the most common coins hide the most surprising stories. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this little nickel deserves a closer look, and we'll also reveal just how much one of these coins can actually be worth in today's market. The year 2000 Jefferson nickel belongs to the long-running series that began back in 1938. For decades, the design featured Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. In 2000, the design had not yet gone through the dramatic changes of the Westward Journey series that would arrive in 2004, so this coin represents the traditional look collectors know so well. But don't let the ordinary design fool you. This coin has its own unique appeal. By the year 2000, millions upon millions of nickels were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. That high mintage means that most examples are very common in circulation, but as always in coin collecting, the real treasure comes when you find coins in pristine condition, or better yet, coins that display unusual minting errors. Errors and varieties are what really set the 2000 Jefferson nickel apart for collectors. Some examples show dramatic die cracks, where the die began to break and left raised lines across Jefferson's portrait or Monticello. Others have off-center strikes, with part of the design missing and blank planchet showing. These are always a favorite among error collectors. Then there are coins struck on misaligned planchets, broad strikes without a full rim, or even double strikes where the coin was hit twice, leaving overlapping images. Varieties can also make the 2000 nickel special. Collectors have identified repunched mint marks, especially on coins from Denver, where the letter D was punched into the die more than once and leaves behind doubling. There are also examples of die deterioration doubling, where the edges of the design appear doubled from worn dies. While not all doubling adds value, the strongest ones are highly collectible. Condition is another crucial factor. Most nickels from the year 2000 went straight into circulation and picked up scratches, nicks, and discoloration. But a coin pulled from a fresh roll and carefully preserved can remain in mint state, with sharp detail and clean surfaces. Collectors especially prize coins graded in the highest levels of mint state, with full steps on Monticello's staircase. Full steps are the ultimate mark of quality on a Jefferson nickel, showing that the coin was struck with exceptional precision. The 2000 issue is no different. Nickels with full steps are far scarcer than you'd think, and they command much stronger prices at auction. Another interesting thing to note is that by the year 2000, nickels were no longer being struck in silver, unlike the famous wartime issues of the 1940s. Instead, these coins were made of the familiar copper-nickel composition. That means their true value comes not from metal content, but from rarity in condition, collector demand, and unusual varieties. For modern coin collectors, it's not about the precious metal, it's about the story the coin tells and the challenge of finding an example that stands out. Now let's talk about value, because this is what makes searching for these coins exciting. A 2000 Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is typically worth just face value, but when you find coins in uncirculated condition, the price jumps. High-grade mint state coins can bring several dollars each, and examples with full steps can climb into the hundreds. Rare error coins, depending on the type and severity, can fetch even more. Some dramatic off-center or double strike errors have sold for hundreds of dollars, while pristine full-step examples graded by top services have reached auction prices of well over $1,000. So there you have it, a nickel you've probably seen hundreds of times, yet when preserved in high grade or struck with a rare error, it becomes a coin collector's dream. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting, the idea that treasure could be hiding in plain sight, even in your pocket change. Top 3, we're diving into a coin that might seem like just another nickel in your pocket, but for collectors, it holds stories of rarity, errors, and hidden value. We're talking about the United States Jefferson nickel from 1971. At first glance, it might not look like much, but stick with me, because this little coin has some fascinating details that make it more than just 5 cents. The 1971 Jefferson nickel belongs to the long-running series that started back in 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, this classic coin carries the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, with his famous home Monticello on the reverse. By the time 1971 rolled around, the coin had already been in production for over 3 decades, yet it still remained a staple of American pocket change. Millions were minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, which makes finding them in circulation today fairly common. But like with most coins, the real story isn't about how many were made, it's about which ones managed to survive in top condition, and which ones carry the unique quirks of minting errors that make them truly valuable. Let's start with condition. Most 1971 nickels you'll find today have been heavily used, showing scratches, wear, and discoloration. But uncirculated examples, those that were set aside before entering circulation, are far scarcer. Collectors especially prize coins graded at the highest levels of mint state, because these pieces show every detail of Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's steps with crisp sharpness. And when you find one with full steps, meaning all the lines of Monticello's staircase are complete and clear, that's when the value really climbs. Full step designations are one of the toughest challenges in Jefferson nickel collecting, because even slight weakness in the strike will blur those details. A 1971 nickel with full steps is considered a real gem. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where things get really interesting. The 1971 Jefferson nickel is known for a number of striking mistakes. Some examples show off-center strikes, where the design is shifted so much that part of the planchet is left blank. Others are broad strikes, where the coin was struck without a retaining collar, leaving it stretched and misshapen. There are double strike errors too, where the coin was hit more than once and shows overlapping designs, but one of the most exciting varieties to look for are double die coins. On some 1971 nickels, you can spot doubling on Jefferson's eye, the inscriptions, or even on Monticello itself. Strong double dies are scarce and always in high demand among collectors. Repunched mint marks are another fun discovery, especially on Denver minted coins. These show where the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, leaving behind a shadowy effect. What makes these errors and varieties so valuable is their rarity. With millions of normal coins struck, only a small fraction contain mistakes, and even fewer survive in collectible condition today. That scarcity drives prices upward, especially when two key factors come together: a dramatic error and a high grade. Now here's the part you've been waiting for: the value. A typical 1971 Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is usually only worth its face value of 5 cents. But if you find one in uncirculated condition, the price quickly rises to several dollars. With full steps, the value can jump into the hundreds. Error coins, depending on how dramatic they are, can sell for hundreds as well. The rare double die varieties and the highest graded full step nickels have crossed into the thousands at auction, with some examples reaching more than $2,000 for a single coin, and that's the magic of the 1971 Jefferson nickel. What looks like a simple coin you might overlook in your pocket change could actually be a valuable collectible. It's a reminder that treasure often hides in plain sight, waiting for the careful eyes of a collector to spot it. Top 4, we're taking a close look at a coin that most people wouldn't think twice about, but for collectors, it's full of history, rarity, and surprises. I'm talking about the United States Jefferson nickel from 1975. At first glance, it looks like just another common 5-cent piece, but don't be fooled, this coin has hidden gems that make it exciting for coin lovers everywhere. Stick around, because by the end of this video we'll uncover what makes the 1975 nickel so interesting, and of course, how much one of these coins can actually be worth in today's market. The Jefferson nickel has been part of American coinage since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag. The obverse features the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the reverse showcases his home, Monticello. By 1975, the design was well established and hadn't yet gone through the modern redesigns that came later. These nickels were struck in copper-nickel alloy, the standard composition, and millions were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. That means most examples you'll encounter today are quite common, but as every collector knows, the story isn't about how many were made, it's about the condition they survived in and the rare mistakes the mint produced along the way. Let's talk about condition first. Circulated 1975 nickels are everywhere, worn down from decades of use in daily commerce. But finding one in uncirculated condition, with sharp details and no signs of wear, is much harder than you might think. Collectors especially prize coins with what's called full steps on Monticello's staircase. This refers to the fine horizontal lines on the steps of Jefferson's home. Most nickels don't show full steps because of weak strikes or worn dies, so when you do find one, it instantly becomes more valuable. A 1975 Jefferson nickel with full steps is a standout coin in any collection. Now, onto the errors and varieties that make this issue exciting. The 1975 nickel is known for producing some fascinating minting errors. Off-center strikes are one of the most dramatic, where the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. These can range from slight misalignments to extreme examples that are missing huge parts of the design. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal. Double strikes, where the coin was struck twice and shows overlapping images, are another collectible variety. Collectors also look for double die varieties on 1975 nickels. On these coins, you might see doubling in the inscriptions, Jefferson's eye, or the word liberty. Strong double dies are always highly collectible because they're rare and visually striking. Repunched mint marks, especially on Denver coins, are another variety worth mentioning. These show where the D was punched into the die more than once, creating a ghost-like doubling effect. Why are these errors and varieties so valuable? It all comes down to rarity. Out of millions of coins struck, only a handful will have these dramatic mistakes, and even fewer survive in good condition today. Collectors love them because they stand out. They're not just ordinary coins, they're accidents of history that make each piece unique. Another thing to remember is that 1975 was the year before America's bicentennial celebrations, when the mint began preparing special coin designs. That gives the 1975 issue a kind of transitional feel. It's one of the last years of the classic Jefferson design before the spotlight shifted. For collectors, that adds a little extra charm to the coin. Now let's talk value, because this is the part you've been waiting for. A typical 1975 Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is generally only worth face value. But uncirculated coins can bring a few dollars, and examples with full steps can reach into the hundreds. Rare double die varieties and dramatic mint errors have been known to sell for hundreds as well. And the finest full-step examples graded at the top levels have achieved auction prices of more than $1,000. So there you have it, the 1975 Jefferson nickel, a coin that looks ordinary but can hide some serious value if you know what to look for. Between rare errors, full-step designations, and high-grade survivors, this nickel has plenty to offer collectors. Top 5, and last rare coin. Let's dive right into the fascinating world of the United States of America Jefferson nickel, the 5-cent coin from 1990, a piece that might seem ordinary in your change jar, but actually carries history, variety, and some surprising hidden value for collectors. If you love coins, stay with me until the very end, because you're about to learn why this small coin deserves a big spotlight. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, featuring the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home Monticello on the reverse. By 1990, this design was deeply ingrained in American life, yet what makes the 1990 issue interesting is not just the design, but the specific quirks, mintage, and striking errors that elevate certain pieces above the rest. The year 1990 was an important time for the U.S. Mint, producing nickels at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints in massive numbers. Millions rolled off the presses, which means most of these coins are extremely common and can be found in circulation even today. However, the magic lies in the details, because while most nickels are worth face value, certain rare examples with unusual errors or exceptional condition can be worth serious money. Collectors often look for strike quality when it comes to Jefferson nickels. By 1990, the mint was still dealing with issues like weak strikes, where the design doesn't appear fully detailed. On Jefferson's portrait, the steps of Monticello on the reverse are one of the most important features. A coin showing a full steps designation, with every step crisply defined, is far scarcer than a weakly struck piece. These FS nickels are what collectors chase after, and finding a 1990 nickel with full steps dramatically increases its desirability. But strike isn't the only thing that matters. Error coins from this year are especially exciting. Some nickels were struck off-center, giving the coin a dramatic shifted design that instantly makes it unique. Others have die cracks, where lines or raised areas appear due to breaks in the minting die. There are even double die varieties that can show doubling on Jefferson's profile or the lettering around Monticello, though these are much harder to find. Each of these errors transforms what seems like a 5-cent piece into a collectible worth far more. Another thing to keep in mind is condition. The majority of 1990 nickels circulated heavily, meaning they're scratched, worn, and lost their luster. But uncirculated pieces with their original shine still intact are far scarcer. Coins graded at higher levels, especially those that reach mint state 65 or better, are the ones that bring strong premiums at auction. A coin with full steps designation and high grade together is considered a jackpot for Jefferson nickel enthusiasts. For collectors, the 1990 Jefferson nickel is a reminder that not all treasures are ancient or rare at first glance. Sometimes, the most overlooked pieces hold the most charm when studied closely. That's the thrill of coin collecting, because every coin has a story, and every year has its surprises. Now let's talk about value, which I know many of you have been waiting for. Most 1990 nickels found in circulation are worth only their face value of 5 cents, but once you factor in rarity, errors, and condition, the story changes dramatically. In the real coin market, pristine uncirculated examples with the full steps designation have sold for hundreds of dollars, while rare error coins and top-graded mint state examples have gone for thousands at auction.so. If you have a 1990 Jefferson nickel, take a close look at it under a magnifier. Check Jefferson's portrait, examine the steps of Monticello, and search for any signs of doubling or off-center strikes. Who knows, your 5-cent coin might just be hiding the kind of rarity that collectors dream about. Thank you for joining me in exploring the fascinating world of the 1990 Jefferson nickel. If you enjoyed learning about this coin, make sure to like this video, share it with other coin lovers, and subscribe for more deep dives into the treasures of US coinage. Your next coin discovery could be the one that changes everything, so keep searching, keep collecting, and keep the passion alive.